Today we take our rights as consumers almost for granted, but it wasn't that long ago when psychosurgical procedures were performed without the knowledge or consent of patients. On December 16, 1960, Howard Dully, then 12, had what was called an ice pick lobotomy performed after his stepmother was simply tired of his youthful defiance. In regards to the long-term effects of the operation, at the age of 56, he said, "I've always felt different, wondered if something was missing from my soul. I have no memory of that operation." He would later go on to uncover the story of his own lobotomy, which had not been revealed to him. In 1977, the U.S. Congress created a National Committee for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research to investigate the allegations that lobotomies were used to control minorities and restrain individual rights. The Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services Title 450, Chapter 15, outlines consumer rights and lists general rights to all substance abuse and mental health programs to include: consumers of mental health or substance abuse services retain all their rights, benefits, and privileges guaranteed by the Constitutions of Oklahoma and the United States. The only exception to this is any right lost through the due process of law. Consumers have the right to be treated with respect and dignity. They have the right to a safe, sanitary, and humane living environment and protection from any harm, abuse, or neglect, and the right to an environment that provides privacy, promotes personal dignity, and provides the opportunity for them to improve their level of functioning. Consumers have the right to receive services tailored to their needs without regards to race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, ethnic origin, degree of disability, handicapping condition, legal status, and or ability to pay for services. NEIC's Consumer Bill of Rights, which is specific to outpatient programs, guarantees consumers will never be neglected, sexually, physically, verbally, or otherwise abused. Consumers have the right to competent, appropriate treatment and an individualized treatment plan. They will be afforded the opportunity and certainly encouraged to participate in their treatment planning and treatment and may agree or refuse to participate in the proposed treatment. This right to refuse to agree may not apply if the consumer is found to be incapacitated by a court or in emergency situations as defined by law. If consumers allow, their family or significant others will be given the opportunity to participate in the treatment or treatment planning. Also, if the consumer allows, NEIC will work with other agencies to assist in the recovery process. Consumer records must be treated in a confidential manner. Consumers have the right to refuse to participate in any research project or medical experiment without informed consent as defined by law. These rights assure the refusal to participate will not affect available services. Consumers have the right to ask for a second opinion of an outside medical or psychiatric consultant at their expense, or an internal facility consultation at no cost. They may file a grievance if they believe any of these or other rights are violated and are protected against any retaliation for asserting their rights. Confidentiality is protected under several government acts and codes. However, there are limits to confidentiality. Generally, without the consumer's written consent, NEIC will not divulge the consumers receiving services here. There are some exceptions. If the consumer states they have knowledge of or are participating in child abuse or neglect, they say they're going to harm themselves or harm someone else, they commit a crime against NEIC or anyone who works for NEIC, or the release of information is requested by a special court order. Always making sure the consumer is fully aware of these limits of confidentiality will reduce the potential for harm. Your responsibility as a staff member is to notify the consumer of their rights. We have a form specifically for that, and it includes all the previous information. If the consumer is a minor or has a court-ordered guardian, then the parent or guardian must also be informed of these rights. Always make sure all responsible parties sign the Bill of Rights form. The consumer also initials they understand that, if requested, we will provide them the entire copy of the Bill of Rights that also covers inpatient and other mental health treatment. If the consumer makes that request, please see the clinical director for assistance. The form also allows for permission or denial of permission for follow-up services. Follow-up services may include making contact through phone calls or mail to see how the consumer is doing following discharge. Always give the consumer a copy of the Bill of Rights and file the original in the treatment record. Our accrediting body, CARF, requires a review of the Bill of Rights with any consumer in the program for more than a year. Initiating a new Consumer Bill of Rights form is the best way to comply with that standard. Conveying these rights to our consumers will go a long way in placing them at ease. Many come to the agency not knowing what to expect, and some may even fear they will be put away. Helping them understand the rights they have and the importance they will play in their treatment and treatment planning will go a long way in instilling the sense of help and hope. At NAIC, we want to have open lines of communication with our consumers, their family members, and significant others. Having open lines of communication allows for potential problems or complaints to be quickly identified, investigated, and resolved. Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, Title 450, Chapter 15, contains information on the process for consumer grievances. It requires an ongoing monitoring of the grievance process and also requires NAIC to make adjustments where and when necessary. A consumer wishing to file a complaint or grievance is encouraged to do so using NAIC's Client Complaint Report form. It is important to make sure the consumer knows they can submit the complaint by any written means or can make direct contact with ODMH SAS Client Advocacy Division. The address and phone number of that agency can be found on the reverse side of the complaint form. On the form, we ask for such information as the nature of the complaint, date and time, location, and staff involved. Gathering as much information as possible about the complaint will allow for a thorough investigation. When completed, the form goes to the Executive Director. After review, if the complaint involves clinical staff or treatment services, the Associate Director of Clinical Services will investigate. If the grievance involves administrative matters or staff, then the office manager will look into it. This action will occur within 72 hours, excluding weekends or holidays, and a response will be forwarded to the person filing the complaint at that time. If not satisfied with the outcome, the person can appeal the decision to the President of the Board of Directors of NAIC. The Board then has 10 days, excluding weekends or holidays, to consult with the person involved and work toward a successful resolution. Many complaints and grievances can be averted when staff members convey a kind and caring attitude and show a willingness to help resolve consumer issues. The outcome is generally a good one. It is always best to try and take care of the issue before it escalates to a formal written complaint. Always encourage the person to speak to your supervisor or program director if you are unable to find a solution.